Okay, well, we'll go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pape,
Here.
Councilman Shavetta,
Here.
Councilmember Kosmeyer,
Here.
Councilmember Hands,
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Here.
Councilmember Leahy,
Here.
Councilmember Ryder,
Here.
Councilmember Silvers,
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note that individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. We have this blue sign-up sheet here that nobody signed up for, but that does not preclude you from coming forward at this time if anybody has a public comment that you would like to make.
I tried to stop him.
Is that, yeah, please come forward, sir, and give your name and address for the record.
Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. Today is the second time in as many council meetings that you'll be discussing a bond using debt to finance things that we could pay for with cash on hand, with cash from our TIF fund. I wish I had spoken out against it last meeting, but I'm here to speak out against it this one, both the issue last time and the one before you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crone. Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else coming forward at this time, I will close out the public section of the meeting. Next item up is the consent agenda, and all items under this heading are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items unless council members so request, in which case that item be removed from the consent agenda item and considered separately. There are 2 items on it this evening, so does anybody want to have either of those removed? I see nobody wanting either of those items removed. I would entertain a motion. Well, go ahead, Mr. Malahay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Ms. Hands.
I second that.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Shavetta,
Aye.
Councilmember Kosmeyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is the mayor's report. And as such, I always like to say kind of what's been going on the last couple of weeks so people kind of know what's happening in the city. And I'll just go through these real quickly. I and several council members attended the Lunch and Learn for city employees. I and a couple city employees attended the Northeast Leadership Alumni meeting. And then a couple of our council members attended the Public Art Committee meeting. We appreciate you guys doing that. I and our police chief attended the Prairie Village Police Chief Roberson's retirement celebration. As you might know, Chief Roberson is now our Johnson County Sheriff, so congrats to him for his continuance in serving the public and other Johnson Countyans. I and several council members and staff attended the 49th Street public meeting. Several citizens showed up and signed the right-of-way at that meeting, or the release documents, I guess. I and several council members and staff attended the Northeast Chamber of Commerce State of the Cities address. At that particular address, all Northeast cities got the opportunity to talk about their accomplishments during 2024, and we had a lot to share. So I and the council president met with Mr. Engel to prepare tonight's agenda. I and Mr. Engel sat at the county commissioners meeting and were available to give testimony, although we did not, on the desire to purchase the old Antioch building, Antioch Library building, excuse me. And they have agreed to allow us to purchase that, and then we'll be going forward with that purchase either first of next week sometime. We'll be taking that next step. I and several council members and staff took a pick at City Hall in the Chiefs apparel in support of their run for another Super Bowl win. How about those Chiefs? And I have my official cup here in case anyone wants to see it. This isn't the right one yet, but I got it out of storage from the last one, so. But hopefully, maybe we'll get a new one. So let's see, what else do we have? A council member attended the Zoom meeting with a community for all ages, incentivizing universal design and multifamily developments. Thank you for doing that. The council member also attended the MCC Foundation annual meeting, and the council member attended the Mark Zoom meeting with the First Suburbs Coalition. So that's the things I have. Did I miss anything from any other people that I was unaware of? Okay. All right, well, that will conclude the mayor's report. Next item up is council items, and the first item we have on it is consider or authorize the purchase of, consider anyway, I guess, mobile data terminals, and we have the chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What you have before you is the purchase of 12 mobile data terminals for our patrol cars. Basically, those are computers that we use to receive dispatch calls in the field. They also operate our mobile cameras in the units. We replace them around every 5 to 8 years, depending on how much technology is advanced, and we buy semi-rugged or ruggedized units for the cars because they have to go through a lot of weather and the heat and the cold in the units when they're sitting outside, and the vibrations from being inside the car. We did put this in the 2025 budget. We are $1,500 over budget. That was because of an oversight on my part, where one of our units has a specialized MDT in it because we set it up a little bit differently to allow ride-alongs with civilian staff or for our trainees when we're doing FTO training. So that unit is fully ruggedized because they don't make it semi-rugged. So it's $1,500 extra. That was addition on my part. So we do have the funds in that account to cover the $1,500 overage, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so go ahead. Excuse me. Go ahead, Mr. Silvers.
You might have answered this already, but I just want to clarify. 11 of them were bundled under item grouping number 1, and 1 was under 5. So the one that you mentioned as the specialized item is the one under line
it's
item 5?
The 11 are computers, actual laptop computers are semi-rugged. The 12th one is a tablet without a keyboard because we set it up differently, but they don't make a semi-rugged version of that. It has to be fully ruggedized, so that's the difference in the cost.
Any other questions for the chief? See no other questions. I would entertain a motion for that item. Mr. Silvers.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve the purchase of the mobile data terminals for the police department.
Okay, and Ms. Yonrich?
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Kozemeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Looks like next item up is consider approval of an agreement with Johnson County for the funding of the 2025 Street and Drainage Improvement Project. And we go. We got Director Kumpke. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our 2025 street and drainage improvement projects includes a replacement or lining of stormwater pipe, a mill and overlay, and spot replacement of curb and sidewalk. And the project location is 61st Street east of Antioch, Hardy from Johnson Drive to 61st Street, and 59th Terrace, 60th Street, and 60th Terrace east of Hardy to city limits. In 2024, we applied for Johnson County Stormwater Funds, and we were happy to find out that we were eligible to receive the funds. The agreement I apologize, I can't talk tonight. The agreement lists the policies and procedures for obtaining reimbursement and also allows us to reimburse 50% of the construction cost for stormwater not to exceed $545,350. Design is underway with construction estimated to begin late spring or early summer, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Kumke? Is that a motion you're ready to make, or you have a question?
No.
Okay.
Never mind.
I would entertain a motion then.
I'll make it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just
Thank
to
you,
move
Ms.
things
Shadrick.
along. All right. Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve an agreement with Johnson County for funding the 2025 street and storm drainage improvements project.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Go ahead. Yeah, no, would you? No, please, Mr. Cosmeyer, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item up is consider a resolution of intent to finance utility undergrounding. It looks like we have Mr. Engel coming to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Next item on the agenda is resolution of intent to finance utility undergrounding project with the issuance of debt. This is the exact same type resolution that you approved at your last meeting. As background, Capital Electric, which is a subcontractor for Evergy, has already started to do the utility undergrounding out on Shawnee Mission Parkway. That's a $5 million project that the City Council approved and put in the budget, I think, first in '23, and then we updated the budget in 2024. Should be completed in mid-July, we hope. It is staff's current plan to pay cash for that project, pay for it out of our TIF budget. That has been our intention all along. However, as the mayor mentioned, we just closed on the library. We're getting ready to close on the library. The Board of County Commissioners just approved the ratification of that contract. And so your staff is looking for highest and best use for that library project for the benefit of our community. And as we're doing that, we're looking at financing for whatever might come our way. We're investigating a variety of things that would benefit that site and our public in turn. One of the things, as we've talked to our financial advisor and the bond counsel, is that it would make sense just as a tool in the toolbox that if something were to come our way, that we would have the ability to bond this. So for example, if we decided we wanted to develop the library property and we were going to borrow money, it might be advantageous to include that in the bond financing. So approval of this resolution just enacts the ability to do that. Our intent is still to pay cash, just like it is to buy the library with cash. This resolution does not prevent us from paying cash for the utility undergrounding, nor does it obligate us to borrow money. We have no intent currently to borrow money for the utility undergrounding. It's simply a tool in the toolbox that, to be quite honest, makes perfect sense to staff. If we need it, we would utilize it. We would have to come back to council and ask. That's all. This is just an enacting or resolution to make sure that that option is available to us. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? This one. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Cosmeyer.
Is there a timeline where where you would know whether it's best to go with the cash option or the bonding option?
There's a 60-day look back on this resolution. So it would be within 60 days.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we would, if somebody were to show up tomorrow and say we've got the grooviest thing in the whole world and it's going to cost us more money than we're comfortable spending, and therefore we would want to bond for whatever that groovy thing is, it may behoove us, it may not, to include either the cost of the library and or the cost of utilities undergrounding in that project. I can't tell you that it will, I can't tell you that it won't. But we have to pass these resolutions before we spend the money. So that was the reason that before we could close on the library, we approved the last resolution. Before we pay our first invoice for the utility undergrounding, which is actually already started, we have to have this passed. So we're simply just trying to get in before the invoice is paid, because then there's a 60-day look back.
Okay.
A lot of information that answer your question.
Yeah, I think so. So that means that in the next 2 months or so, not
Absolutely.
like in 6 months.
No.
or a
Yeah.
year.
Okay. There's a ticking clock on our ability to do this.
Perfect. Thanks.
Did that answer yours, Mr. Caldwell, or do you have something to, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Silvers, you have something?
As long as I've been on council, we haven't done this, but are there any projects that come to mind that we've used this bond option?
Well, not this option quite like this. We borrowed money for the community center. We've borrowed money in the past. We generally have chose to cash finance, which I think is a very wise decision if we have the means to do so. And we currently have the means to do so here, and that is our intent. We are simply just reserving the right to do that. So probably this is the first time we've ever done this ordinance to preserve the right to borrow after the fact. Does that answer question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Usually we've known beforehand, hey, we're gonna borrow money for this. This, we're just simply enacting it because we don't know what's gonna happen at the library.
Any other questions for Mr. Engel? I see no other questions. I would entertain a motion. Ms. Hands.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council approve a resolution of intent to reimburse the city for the cost of utility undergrounding project through the future issuance of debt.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Yadrich.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
Madam Clerk, we have a motion, and a second.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Kosemeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, we just got through that pretty quick. It looks like our next item up is our monthly finance report. Oh, our first meeting. Okay, great.
I'm so excited.
Our new director.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So before you, you should have got it with your packet, is the December 2024 financial report and investment report. As this coincides with our end of the year, as you're all aware, December 31st marks the end of the fiscal year 2024. I thought it might be beneficial just to go through some key financial highlights since you essentially have preliminary numbers through the end of the year in front of you. If at any point you want me to stop, let me know. I'm going to make it relatively quick and painless, hopefully. So then this will kind of coincide. If you want to flip through, feel free, and if not, that's okay too. So as far as revenues go, you'll see that practically every revenue that we have came in over budget, which is absolutely wonderful. It means that we're conservatively budgeting, but also that the economy is doing well. There's decent indicators going on. The only one that came in close, slightly under budget, was the city use tax, which is to be expected. You'll see that we have some overperforming revenue sources of the Merriam Community Center. They did amazing this year and came in over $300,000 over budget. Also, our real property taxes came in largely over budget. So those are amazing numbers to see. On the flip side, you'll see that our expenditures came in under budget in almost every case, especially when you're looking at our significant expenditure categories. For example, our salaries and benefits came in almost $300,000 under budget, which really just goes to show how awesome the city is doing at managing personnel and overtime and all those things. And again, the Merriam Community Center, I know that they're working really hard on their budget. So not only on revenues did they come in high, but on expenditures, they came in at 96% of their budget. So kudos to them. And then when we look at our metrics, obviously we had a deficit when it comes to the net position change. So we did overspend this year when you look at expenditures compared to revenues. However, they were all planned for. We anticipated going into the budget for 2024 that you would overspend a little with some improvement projects that were in place. So it was not over budget unplanned. It was planned to fund your CIP. And then as far as cash and investments go, obviously we have about $59 million in investments. About 91% of those are in federal securities, which is a really safe, comfortable place to put the money if you're going to. And then we do about almost 9% in a cash account that's gaining a little bit lower levels of interest, but still really it's easier for us to access our money when we spread out where we're investing it. And then when we look at our outstanding obligations, we still are paying on the general obligation fund for bond for the community center. That is from 2018. And then we have the I-35 redevelopment fund commitment, which was the $26.8 million one that we are also paying on. A few key observations, if you're looking at the year, sales tax collections increased by about 0.8%, which is really driven by some moderate growth in auto sales and other retail categories. Again, the Merriam Community Center is going strong and had a really strong performance this year with their memberships and programming. And then when it comes to expenditure management, savings were achieved across multiple areas, including salaries, fire services, and utilities. So I would love to see that for 2025 as well. And then the last one for capital investments, we had a few noticeable purchases, some planned for, some not, with our HVAC system upgrades and a large amount of different tools and a Bobcat utility vehicle. So it's amazing that we have the money to be able to invest in those types of things. But yes, so our highlights is that our sales tax rate is still very competitive at the 9.4 for this area. Our bond rating is AAA, the highest it can be, stable. We have debt retirement coming, will be fully paid off by 2027 for the 2018 bonds. And then our assessed property valuation is still holding very strong at $290 million, with about 50% commercial and then the rest residential and other. And then we keep seeing that increase in our households every census. So as you can see, it was a very strong year for us financially, and I'm very excited to be a part of that. So I think next time we actually end our 2024, we close out the year and make it so we can't book anything else at the end of this month. We wait and see if any invoices are going to come in that we need to charge to last year. So we give a little bit of grace on that. And so hopefully at the next council meeting, I have a report to give you that will highlight some more of this information and that you can take with you and will be part of the packet for the public as well. But that is just kind of a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. But like I said, next time I'll make sure you have a little bit more meat and potatoes on that once the numbers feel a little more secure for end of the year means.
Any questions for Director Borth?
Awesome.
Questions?
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Good job. All right, looks like next item up, I believe, is going to be our community development update.
Hey, Mayor, excuse me, council members, Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Again, first of the year, just our grant applications opened up. I think the weather had a pretty big significant effect on the number of applications we had because there's obviously some pretty gnarly weather out there. So didn't get a lot of applications in, but very much like last year where we had the same situation. We're anticipating as the weather warms up and folks get outside, they'll see projects they want to do and the applications will start to come in. So again, anybody that has projects for any kind of sustainability or any kind of exterior improvements, please see Mr. David Easley, and we'd love to get them started on those grant programs. Just an update, quick update on Merriam Grand Station. It continues to go as scheduled, apace. They are now working primarily on the west apartment complex as well as the amenities that are going to be in between those two complexes. So they continue, again, as I said, to be on schedule. A couple also things that we are working through in this time of the year. First one is our community rating system. We have our 5-year renewal of that. Community rating system is a FEMA program. That's a program where communities participating in the CRS program receive a reduction in the rates of flood insurance for the residents. So we have our 5-year renewal of that. So we're working together all the documents and getting preparation for the site visit for that. And then we're also our end of the year, our stormwater pollution report that we do. Essentially, it's a report that we do to the state to meet EPA requirements for all the things we do to reduce the amount of pollution that enters our stormwater system. So that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Dyer? I see no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, next item up is single hauler update. We got Ms. Gard coming to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a quick update. You've seen this slide a number of times before. We're still on schedule with our single hauler process. The RFP is out to bid right now. That bid does close on February 14th. There is a mandatory pre-bid meeting for any haulers that are wishing to bid on the project. That's this Friday at 10 a.m. It's obviously open to the public. It's included on our webpage and on the city's calendar online as well. Following that process, we're hopeful to have a number of bids. We really don't know at this point, but we're hopeful to have a number of bids come in, and then the work group that was established to write the RFP can evaluate those bids, come up with a recommendation to then bring to the city council in hopefully a work session type meeting. So we can kind of go over everything that we've done up to this point, everything in the bids, everything in the RFP, and we can kind of just comprehensively have a conversation about next steps before you all have to make any decisions. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions from Ms. Gard? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cosmo.
How soon after all of the bids are received are you going to have estimates on like how much people's monthly cost will be?
Well, as soon as I read them, I'll know immediately.
Well, will you be able to provide?
Yeah, of course. It's just going to depend when I can get that work group together, to be honest. Hopefully within a week or so after the bids, we can all get together to kind of start to review those. I want to make sure that once the bids come in, that it's a pretty extensive bidding process as to what kind of documentation the haulers are going to need to fill out, make sure they have insurance requirements, all those things. So I want to make sure that those are valid bids before I kind of release them out into the world. But hopefully there's going to be a number of them that we can start looking at from the work group. I know we have a couple council members on that work group too, before I bring them back to you all for consideration.
Ms. Hanson, go ahead.
So the meeting on Friday, are you expecting that you're going to walk through it with all of the people and then they're going to ask questions after that?
Yep, that's exactly the
And
case.
it's here at City Hall?
It is, yes. It's upstairs in the community training room. I'm going to be walking through the RFP pretty extensively. I mean, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but pretty extensively. We also did have to issue an addendum. There's been a number of questions already, mostly clarifying questions from the RFP that we've had to answer, that we've issued. So I'll walk through that as well. And then if there are any additional questions, I'll make sure that those are answered at that time, if I can.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
And just to clarify, that meeting is required for someone to submit a bid, so
It is.
you would have the opportunity to talk to anybody that submits a bid.
That's correct, yep.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Leahy.
Because I'm on the work group, I saw the or the
Addendum.
The addendum, and I'm sure when you go through the RFP with them, you'll make sure that you know that some of the extra questions we asked were not mandatory for selection, that they were, hey, the city also covers this service. If we would like to outsource it, do you provide it? And if you win the bid, could you do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. And I should have asked you this before, but the mayor's group and all the mayors in Kansas have been talking about this particular
fun.
subject.
Okay.
Are you aware of that? Have you been following any of that? Or no? Okay.
I'm happy to talk to anyone about it, though.
There is a lot of other cities out there discussing this right now. So it's
Okay,
very
they're watching
common.
us. All right,
They're
good.
watching. Thank you. No other questions? Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you,
Gordon.
guys.
Okay. All right, well, next item up is just informational items. We have the Public Art Committee had met, as I mentioned earlier, and we have the minutes in our packets. Anybody have any questions, Director Slocum, on that, or we're good to go into that? All right, well, gosh, we're just kind of clicking right along here. I understand we're going to have executive session. Do you have anything from staff, Mr. Engel?
Just two quick items. We have a legislative lunch scheduled with our state reps on February 4th. Please RSVP with Caitlin if you are interested and able to attend. That will be in Topeka, I believe. In the past, we've caravan. City has just put everybody in a car. We're happy to do that again. And then city council goals and objectives are due by Friday, February 14th. It's not required that you have any. We are amply busy, but we have not received any. But as a reminder, those are budget goals. So those would be goals that as we start to put together the fiscal year 26 budget, what are some things that the council would like to see? We will carry over all of the existing ones unless we have accomplished them. But again, we're not necessarily looking for more, but
Do
just
the
as a
ones with Valentine's get more consideration?
that is up to your colleagues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions, or Mr. Engel?
I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead, John.
So there are some specific goals and objectives that if we want to keep them, but there are initiatives that we previously discussed as part of those goals and objectives that have not been implemented, they aren't goals and objectives, right? But they are things we have talked about as falling under those. Can we just shoot those as an email, as reminders,
Sure, absolutely.
rather than including them in a new document?
Sure.
To say, hey, what about this?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
The result. All right. Well, I understand that there is an executive session this evening. Have we ratified how much time we're going to need for?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session then.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move that the governing body recess into executive session for preliminary discussion related to property acquisition pursuant to KSA 754319B6, which allows the governing body to hold an executive session for preliminary discussion of property acquisition. Present will be the governing body, a city attorney, city administrator, public works director, and public works director's on here twice.
I'm sorry, it should be
Community Development Director. I just walked out the door.
Apologize.
The meeting will reconvene in the council chambers at 8:05.
8:05. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Second. Okay, Ms. Chandra.
Mr. Mayor, a second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Cosmeyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Well, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Go ahead, Ms. Chandra.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a second. Go ahead, Ms. Ryder.
Mr. Mayor, I second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.